Hey guys, welcome back to Brian's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail. And today's video is going to be a little bit different. And I actually found this case when I was researching another case that I'm working on. And this is about the disappearance of Dennis Lee Reynolds. And when I'm researching cases, hiking cases, especially when I'm researching the foul play end, I cross-reference them with other missing persons cases from that exact date or that week, that time, that location, just to see if there's any possible connection. This case was brought to my attention, and in 2019 there was more information that led to it possibly being solved after 40 years. So this happened in Litchfield, Illinois, here in the United States, and it's basically a small town between St. Louis and Springfield. It's famous for the Litchfield Route 66 museum that's there. And from what I can tell, it's a really nice little town. Obviously, it gets very cold in the winter, and this happened in the winter of 1978. And it is apparently the second or third most cold, brutal winter they ever had. This guy, Dennis, he vanished in this blizzard. And I'm going to give you the story because not only did he vanish, but his police file, which became very thick over time. The police department really worked hard on that. That file ended up vanishing. Anyway, during this storm in 1978, it was so bad that they got over an inch of snow a day for like 50 straight days. The National Guard had to be called in to help, keep the community in order. It was just, over 83 or 82 inches of snow in total. And something like, when it was all said and done, like over 24 people had passed away just sitting in their car because they had been stranded. But this guy, Dennis Reynolds, he had been out with his best friend. This was on February 4th of 1978. And this is the day when this catastrophic blizzard struck the area. And because of the severe weather, airports, businesses, schools, everything was closed down. And on this day, the snow began falling around 2 p.m. And by that evening, temperatures were below zero. It was just craziness. Reynolds and his friend had gone to this bar just to hang out, get some drinks. Afterwards, Dennis Reynolds had taken his friend home, and he said he was going to visit his girlfriend. Unfortunately, that was the last time he was ever seen. He has not been seen since that night. It was Saturday when Dennis originally left his home, and his mother became concerned on Monday when he had still not returned. Family and friends began driving around through all the different snow-riddled neighborhoods, and someone came upon his car, although it was abandoned in a ditch. Now, the street that the car was found on was on the corner of Franklin and Seneca Streets, and this was right directly near his girlfriend's mobile home. So I'm going to put up some maps here of what the area looks like in today's world, but obviously this was in 1978. So upon hearing the news, Dennis's mom arrived at the location of the car, and she immediately knew something was very wrong. Now, it has been said that his girlfriend was not at home that night, and after the disappearance, Reynolds' car was found abandoned in a snowfield ditch across the street from his girlfriend's house. The doors were locked, its windows were broken, Reynolds' jacket was still inside, and he apparently had tried to walk 100 feet away to a residence to get help. Now, I have looked up and down to try and find who was the witness in that case, who said that they saw him trying to walk 100 feet away, and I can't find it. It was part of the original police report, but there's no name in collaboration, so I'm guessing it's just one of the neighbors or someone in the neighborhood. Now, prior to his disappearance, Dennis Reynolds had been spending a lot of time with his girlfriend at her trailer, and he had also purchased a trailer himself that he was making payments on and was planning to move in on. But at the same time, he was getting in many arguments with his girlfriend, and also the brothers of his girlfriend stepped in to defend her. And about 6 months prior to his disappearance, a really bad altercation occurred between them. I'm not sure which one of the brothers, but the brother actually beat him up, attacked him with a baseball bat. And it was so bad that he was hospitalized from his injuries. And it didn't end there. The brothers actually threatened to kill Dennis Reynolds if he ever went near their sister again. And obviously, this took a huge toll on Dennis, both psychologically and physically. It took him several weeks to recover from those injuries. And he actually ended up moving into his parents' house for roughly 6 months after that whole debacle, and he pretty much stayed away from his girlfriend for that 6 months. However, leading up to this altercation and this night, they had been seeing each other again just on weekends. Dennis Reynolds was 24 years old at the time. He is a white male between 6 feet and 6'2", 160 to 180 pounds, brown hair, blue eyes. He was thought to be wearing jeans. He wears glasses. He did have a beard at the time of his disappearance, and he does have a cleft palate. He did like to go out and drink and occasionally do drugs, but apparently he was very close to his family, and they say that he would never just wander off. So really, that's just not a plausible theory here. And the police have an extensive file on this case. Sergeant Jason Black, who has one of the longest tenures with the Litchfield Police Department, he grew up in Litchfield and was a kid when Reynolds disappeared. He had joined the police department, and he was a young dispatcher when he found Reynolds' file. And he worked on it every chance he had. And at some point, the file was just lost, he said that it was like the case never existed. Despite that obviously being a huge setback for the case, the new police chief that took over in 2019, combined with Dennis's sisters, helped rebuild the file. His sisters, Sherry and Cynthia, really worked hard to keep his case alive and help the police rebuild the case. And one of the brothers that had assaulted Reynolds was polygraphed. There were no arrests made in the case, but the other brother and the girlfriend, they were never polygraphed. They actually refused to take a polygraph, which to me is very suspicious. But there have been no arrests in this case and no official suspects actually named. At the time of his disappearance, Dennis Reynolds was working in the manufacturing department at the Echelon warehouse, and he never picked up any of his paychecks after that night. He never made any more payments on his trailer, and it was like he just vanished into the blizzard. Both of his sisters concede that Dennis did have problems back then, but they weren't problems that would make him walk off. And they knew from the beginning that this just wasn't a random disappearance. And apparently the police case from the beginning, in the very beginning, was botched, and it didn't get much attention, which obviously upset the sisters, as they were a very, very close family. But in 2019, the case got some renewed life into it. Litchfield Police Chief Kenny Riker took over, and he had staffed the department since 2002, and he really understood the sisters' frustrations, and he's been working with them to try and bring this case to a closure. And they've actually rebuilt that case file to be even thicker than the first case file was. Unfortunately, according to Chief Riker, back at the time, the protocol was much different for missing persons, especially adult males. And they should have had he concedes that there should have been a higher level of priority put towards this case. This is a picture with Dennis's mom around the holidays with a picture of Dennis. And she never found out what happened to her son. And his sisters are still fighting to this day to find out. They have a theory. They believe that because he was abusive at times to his girlfriend, again, I don't know what kind of abuse, but they believe that his brothers and the combination of the brothers and the sister, they did something to him that night, which I believe is the most plausible theory, especially since two of them won't take a lie detector test. And both police chiefs have focused on that theory too, focusing on the brothers and the girlfriends as, I don't want to say they haven't been named as suspects, but they've been following those as the most primary leads in this case. Dennis's best friend, who he went to the bar with that night, he's been cleared. He's not a suspect, and there was no motive for him to do anything. They were best friends, and they were just out that night for a drink, and he's not considered a suspect. And interesting enough, about 30 years after the case, one of the sisters was working at her job, and a customer was filling out a warranty information and screaming about how this guy had done damage to his car and how he was threatening to kill the guy who did the damage. And when she looked up, it was one of the brothers that she knew from 30 years ago, the brother of the girlfriend of Dennis Reynolds. So again, there's been a lot of things that have reignited this case over the years. And now that there's a new chief investigating it, they think that they're getting closer to possibly at least having a solid suspect and maybe possibly charging somebody. I don't know. Again, it's still an open investigation, and the initial incident happened over 40 years ago. What actually happened to Dennis Reynolds on that blizzard night back in February of 1978? I can't say for sure, but my theory is that after he dropped off his friend, he got out of his car, he went up to his girlfriend's trailer, maybe to talk to her, maybe he was drunk and irate, maybe the brothers possibly were there, and an altercation ensued. Subsequently, maybe it was accidental, maybe they killed him accidentally and they covered it up somehow with the blizzard. Everything was shut down, so it gave them easier access and time to dispose of things, and who knows, but that seems to be a theory that would fit most. Either way, I wanted to cover this case because his sisters have done just a wonderful job keeping this case alive and rebuilding the case file, and the new police chief that took over in 2019 has paired up with some of the older guys in the department, and they really seem focused and determined on solving this case. And like they said, and like I've said in other videos, it only takes one phone call or one person coming forward to pull the whole thing together and solve it. So I'm hoping that that's what will happen in this case. Of course, I want to send my thoughts and prayers to the family and all the investigators working on this case. And I mean, it was so long ago, but hopefully the right piece of information will fall into place and this case will be solved. If you have any information that you think could help or regarding this case, please contact the Litchfield Police Department at 217-324-5991. I want to thank everybody as always for watching, and I appreciate all your support, and also a special shout out and thank you to coag.ag for the background music. And I just wanted to say thank you again for being patient with the upload schedule. I am working on several different videos and researching, and it's just been really hard after I fractured my ribs, but I am making progress. And actually the hardest thing I found is that out here there's so many areas in the areas that I'm covering some of these stories in cases that there's no cell service or poor Wi-Fi, but I am making a bunch of different videos and working on them, so I appreciate you being patient, and in the meantime I'll continue to show you some footage. And the current video I'm working on is the one I mentioned about the Yuba City 5, and I was able to make it up to this area and do some further research, and wow, just being up in this area sheds so much more light on this case, being on the actual road they took. And so I'm going to be presenting that video shortly. It's taken me a while to not only get up here, but get all the information together, but I think it will really help shed some light on that case, and looking forward to sharing it with you. So I'll see you guys in the next one.